Can you disclose it?
No, I actually can't disclose a lot for another, I think it's 65 years. I was on my couch on a Saturday morning and we got the call saying, brother, we got a job. Let's go up and get it. We actually were able to dive down to the plane that JFK Jr was in that crashed in Martha's Vineyard. I saw my picture of me pulling over pieces of JFK Jr.'s plane, and I was like, yeah. The legs of JFK Jr.'s were not on his body. Like from his hips, find the legs.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
You come up with all this crazy story, amazing missions, 25 years in the military, in the Navy, and then now you're doing hard money landing.
Yeah.
How the switch was, man? Like, that's insane. All right, I'm here with my man, Joshua Benjamins. I'm so excited to have you, my man. You are an incredible energy. Joshua is actually the owner of the Homeport Capital. He's been retiring from the Marine, Navy, no?
Navy,
actually.
absolutely. Deep Sea Navy.
Deep Sea Navy. It's used 25 years in the Navy, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And then now he's been retired for 4 years, and he's into real estate, hard money lender. How he was able to move from the Navy to hard money lender, and he have to share his contribution to the audience about hard money lender.
Very cool, man. Marco, appreciate that intro. So nice to meet you. So glad to be here. So I am super pumped, super excited to let this one go.
Let's get it rolling, my man. So 25 years in the deep sea.
Yes. Chief Navy diver. E7, for the civilians out there. Basically, I went in as a very, very young age, 18 years old, right out of high school, and I just stuck with it. Never broke service, active duty, enlisted the whole time. And 25 years passed by just so fast. And it was time to get out, time to start on a new chapter. And so started with real estate right off the jump, right back out.
Wow. What were you doing exactly in the mission, or what type of work were you doing?
So I was actually a Navy diver chief. So I was a Navy diver, underwater work. There's big three elements that we do while you're a Navy diver in the military, and that's ships repair, maybe getting underneath them and just fixing them whichever way possible they need to be fixed, saving time for them having to pull them out and then, dry docking them and stuff like that. So that's one big thing that we do. Another one is salvage. Stuff goes down, sinks to the bottom. Guess what? We got to go pick it up. Airplanes, helicopters, harbor clearance, you name it. Like that's one of the three major jobs that we do. The other one is we'll call it support for like the SEALs, EOD, just the special warfare world. We're just the tech experts for the bottles they use, the scuba gear they use, the dive rigs they use, some of the jump gear they use, anything with compressed air in it. We're the experts that we are their technical experts. So they can focus on their job, and all the equipment they're going to use to do it is perfectly set up, So with those three, we got a variety of stations where we could go to around the world. And it's kind of a cool job to have. I mean, I loved every day of it pretty much. And at points I do miss it. The new guys have their fun too. So I'm proud to say, good job, boys. You go get it now.
That's amazing, man. Well, when does a person like you usually retire?
So the rumor is, or the probably fact is, most people that join the military don't even retire. So because you have to do a full 20 years, right? There are people that get medically retired before 20 years, like injuries and stuff like that. But to get a full real retirement currently is 20 years. So you have to do a full 20 years, and then you get, the old pension, or you get, some, pay when you get out. If you get out before that, nope, sorry, hey, thanks so much. The new system now has changed a little bit to where they give you, they have like almost a 401k plan where you could roll out before 20 years and get some sort of money and stuff. When I retired, it was do 20, get half of your pension, 50% of your pay for the rest of your life. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at right now. Good deal. Some people don't believe in pensions. Some people do. Some people say, hey, once you get past 10 years in the military, just finish it out, man. Get that last 10 in and go with it, And then collect that little mailbox money from Uncle Sam because
Nice.
you earned it, bro. You might as well get it.
That's great. Before entering and diving into the Armory Lander and what you do as expertise, I'm just curious, what's a crazy story that happened to you while you were, doing some work in the Navy?
Yeah. So I got a lot of them. So, I mean, man, we could do a whole podcast telling crazy stories. One of the big ones really, or two probably big ones that really, really stick out is, it was a while ago, but I'm pretty sure everyone kind of knows about it because it was kind of a big deal in history, was when JFK Jr crashed into the ocean off of Martha's Vineyard with him and his wife and her sister. I was on my couch on a Saturday morning and we got the call saying, brother, we got a job. Let's go up and get it. And we motored our boat on up there. And we actually were able to dive down to the plane that JFK Jr was in that crashed in Martha's Vineyard. So, I mean, that's just a wild, crazy, just, of course it happened a while ago, but I mean, I was in the supermarket once and on the National Enquirer, I saw my picture of me pulling over pieces of JFK Jr.'s plane. And I was like, yeah. So I know there's a lot of conspiracy theory behind that one, and that's a whole nother thing of how it happened, what happened, whatever, and you know the Kennedy name. But I know the truth, and if anyone ever wants to know the truth, come on over, buy a beer, and I'll tell you a lot.
On the podcast.
So yeah, I know, right? Yeah, let's do it. Yes. I'll go all the way through the whole story of JFK Jr. And then the other big one really is I rode a submarine underwater for 47 days straight. No fresh air, no sunlight, just 47 days of recycled air with me and 150 other dudes.
100.
So, I mean, you could probably go into that one of like, wow, what's that like? What are you guys doing down there? Blah, blah, blah. But that's another crazy, just wild story that I was able to experience during my many years of the military. Insane it was. Sometimes when you're down there, like even hardcore murdered convicted criminals get an hour of yard time with some sunlight, and I'm down here with zero. What the heck did I do
for you though?
It's just a whole different world. I mean, I can imagine if you talk to an astronaut that's up in the space station, circling back and forth and like, bumping into everyone because it's just such a confined space. It's probably very similar. It's just you find just weird stuff to do that you could never even imagine you would have to create stuff to do. Luckily for us, we did have a little bit of like 2 treadmills and a couple like little weights you could find here stashed in the corners to just, make your blood flow a little bit more. But other than that, you watched a lot of movies, you did your job, what you were doing, and then you kind of just ate, meals were like a novelty. You're like, yes, we get to eat in 30 minutes. Cool. Looking forward to the next meal.
How do you prepare mentally though to be in a submarine for like 47 days straight?
Man, I don't even know how you actually prepare mentally. You just know you got to do it. It's something you're going to be stuck or to do. But mentally per se, we actually trained 2 years for that evolution that we did right there. So for 2 years, we kind of already just got the muscle memory in. We just went through the motions of, hey, when we get out there, this is what we're going to do. This is how.
So you knew 2 years before?
Yes, exactly. It was a big, big deal what we were doing.
You know why? Can you disclose it?
No. I actually can't disclose a lot for another, I think it's 65 years.
65
Yeah, we all got read into the program, and they were like, dude, you can't say one word. You can't write a book. You can't write no movies. Can't talk on no podcast about it. It's stuck in your brain. And I'll tell you what, to this day, I still have not mentioned to one soul about what we did out there.
What can happen to you if you actually speak?
I think, they could take all the money that any book deal makes. They could take all the money your movie makes. They could probably even imprison you and stuff like that, and Leavenworth and stuff like that. So, like, how could I, But
that's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe someone else sees that who was there, like, they'll lowball me, like, I'll do it for Ethereum. I'm like, oh, damn, got me. But yeah.
For the JFK story, you can talk about it.
That one we can. Yeah, that one was really never classified. My brother-in-law, actually, he was in the Air Force Academy, and he says during school of how to learn how to be a pilot, they utilize that whole story to basically show if you get complacent while you're flying, the little things that happen while you're flying grow, and eventually you lose control of your plane. And so they use that as a true real life scenario of this is what could happen when you're flying planes. And weather that could change on you. You know, one click on the radio for the CB off dial. You know, all those little things that you wouldn't think would be a big deal roll all together, and it becomes a big deal, and then you're not even live anymore. So
why do the company don't allow smoking inside the plant?
that's a good question, but
Do you think it's related to the protocol type of?
no, I think it's probably the same exact theory. Like, we don't smoke inside here anymore in California. I think all other countries that allow you to smoke on planes, but no, I don't think it has anything to do with the pilots per se. It's just more of a courtesy thing, I believe, for smoking on planes.
Wow. So, I mean, sorry, man, just super funny good. So you went in the supermarket and you got a call, and it's like, hey, dude, we gotta run.
Yeah, well, I was actually on my couch Saturday morning, and we got the call, went in. Sunday, we piled everything on the boat that we were going to need to be able to do this dive. And by Monday morning, afternoonish, we were off the coast of Rhode Island, and we were punching holes in the water and going out and diving.
Was it hard mission?
It wasn't hard per se, because luckily when you are a Navy diver and you're into these, units in the military, you're very, very well trained. I mean, that's just it, like you were just muscle memory. So it's almost like you don't realize what you're doing, and like you get asked, was it hard? I was doing my job. But then you look back at it like from somebody else's point of view, they're like, I wouldn't even go into the ocean. I'm scared of this, I'm scared of that. So you're like, oh, so I'm not only going to the ocean, I'm going down deep to the bottom of the ocean, and then I'm walking around some plane that just crashed. It's just full of jagged edges of metal. And you start going, well, yeah, it was hard, huh? But while you're in it, you just think, this is just everyday work. This is what we do. This is what I was trained to do. And this is why I'm here.
Were you guys buddies?
Yes.
Did you pick up his body?
So, funny story about that. I was supposed to be on the very first dive to recover the bodies. An officer in the military, that's the higher ranking guy, bumped me off that dive, went down there and pulled the 3 bodies out of the airplane and put them in. We take body bags down there with us, and they stored them into the cage that we have to bring all the articles up that we find down there. He came back up and he goes, all right, well, you got 3, but here's some secret sauce for all you conspiracy theories. The legs of JFK Jr.'s were not on his body. Like, from his hips, find the legs.
No fucking way.
Yeah, so I went down there with every intention to find a set of legs of JFK Jr. History books. History books. Like, what the hell, dude? I was 22, 23 years old. I was like, all right, master diver, finding some legs for you. So I never did find the legs, so we all just believe they kind of, went away somehow with currents and all that stuff like that. So I did, and was able to start weaving this huge wire rope through the whole fuselage of basically the biggest part of the I think it was a Cessna or of some sort of the plane. But yeah, so somewhere out there, JFK Jr.'s legs is still floating around.
But do you think like the sharks eat the leg, like striped from the leg, or was like a bam, a cut?
Yeah, I think the crash just kind of like ripped into it, and they just kind of floated away. I mean, we could get real graphic into like what kind of body parts were elsewhere of this.
So bro.
I mean, if you want to get real graphic, let's just say that we found, because so our hoses, right, our dive hoses have basically Velcro booted chafing gear at the last 30 to 40 feet of it. So this Velcro is, just like anything, and catches everything. Well, after we were almost done diving, like we had picked up, the fuselage, the 3 bodies, we found this guy's crutches because he had broken his foot a month before this. So he was still on crutches. We found his crutches down there. We found Guns N' Roses CDs down there. We found his hat, we found everything. Now, that's what we do. We find stuff at the bottom of the ocean. So after all that happened, they took away the bodies, and the USS Briscoe down the way, we heard the gun salutes going off, the charades, man. The senators were on that thing, and we were still diving. Well, one guy goes, I found basically a quarter piece of a long blonde hair scalp wrapped up into our little Velcro chafing gear.
Oh, what? They found what?
A scalp. A quarter of the scalp of one of the blonde females, both of them were blonde, wrapped up in our little chafing gear. And this is after the barrel at sea has been. So the diver informs the guys up top via comms in our dive helmets, hey, looking at this, I found it. I don't know if I'm getting in trouble for this one, but we got told, no, you didn't. So, hey, us divers, man, us military guys, we do what we're told. So unwrap the blonde hair and give it back to the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah. Small details like that. You don't read in any National Enquirer or nothing, but yeah, that's
So, I mean, like, maybe, so they were flying and they were carrying this scalp, this blonde female part of the skull.
So they were underwater on the bottom searching for stuff. And you can imagine this hose is dragging on the bottom as we are walking on the bottom, just basically picking up, wreckage. And so this is my theory, is the scalp somehow got cut off during the crash into the bottom of the ocean. I mean, it looked like just a crushed up can, what we found out, right? Like all the plane parts are just metal, jagged everywhere, opened up, And so we believe that some portion of that metal plane just scalped one of the blonde females in the back, and it was somewhere down there with all the other stuff that we were looking for. And somehow that blonde got stuck to our Velcro chafing gear. And it was just there for a while. And when they found it, because when you get back from working, you push your hose back up to the top so they could, pull it back, take all the slack out of it, and you sit on this. Like I said, they informed top, hey, we found this, and they said, no, you did it.
No, you did it.
Just put it back. Wow. And then that was pretty much the last day of diving.
How long it took you to, how long was the mission?
So that was about a full week of diving that we were down there. And I mean, because they just wanted everything, right?
Sure.
I think the NTSB came out and was really the head of who wanted to get everything. They really wanted to find out, what was the cause of this plane. So you need all the parts and pieces of the plane, I mean, including the good old black box, right? That's just what you need to get it. And we found probably, I'd say 90%. And they didn't want any of this stuff floating away or getting away or other people getting it. And next thing you know, it's a little piece up in someone's bar, like, hey, look, this is the wheel of JFK's plane, so they really were also saying, get as much as you can, blah, blah, blah. So,
sure.
So, I mean, that's what we did. We recovered most of it.
But per day, how many hours were you guys diving in?
We dove pretty much just during the daylight days. So probably 8 hours a day. We had just teams of 2 go down there, recover stuff, put it in the basket, pull it up. And then once their guys are out, we'd send 2 more guys down there to the bottom, pick up more. And so it was pretty spread out. I don't know exactly how far along the whole wreckage was spread, but it was definitely pieces and parts of.
So you need a submarine to go down?
Yep.
And how long was the hours, minutes, whatever it is, from the surface to the bottom of the ocean? So
it was around 120 feet deep. And that usually probably takes us less than 3 minutes to get down. Now getting up is the slow part. That's where you always have to worry when you're a diver that, hey, I got to come up slow. I got to make certain stops because, you don't want the little tiny bubbles that are in you now to just expand. And next thing you know, it's in your brain or your heart or in your arteries. And it stops blood flow. You don't want to do that. So as fast as you can make it down. How long is it going to take? At 120 feet, let's say we come up 30 feet a minute. It's been a while, but yeah, we just do the math. Like all the people up top are the people who are in charge of come up at this speed, and then they know when to make a stop too. So like on this dive, we probably had to stop at, 60 feet, 5 minutes there. Then we stop at 50 feet. We do another 8 minutes there. Then we stop at 50 feet, stop there, and then we have this crazy thing called surface decompression. This is where we don't want to sit in the water and just let these bubbles, go away. We want to go ahead and get you into the chamber where you're dry, where we could talk better, we could write notes down, we could kind of explain what's going on, we could breathe 100% oxygen. So what they do is at 40 feet, they just up and over, diver, let's go. Rip us out of the water, undress us, take our wetsuit off, take our helmet off, take us full down to our little UDT shorts, and then push us into the decompression chamber and then pressurize it right back down to the 40 feet simulated water pressure that we were in 5 minutes before. And therefore, that quick of a turnaround, you can then decompress nice and slow and controlled in an environment where you're not in the elements anymore.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's insane, bro.
You'll
blow my mind right now, man.
I'm telling you, man, it's a whole nother world out there, man, that this is what we do on the regular. And we just think it's normal. But when we get to tell our story, people are like,
oh my God.
Is this real life, man? You didn't. I'm like, dude, it's like what we used to do was what people did in video games, but we did in real life.
Much respect, bro. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
So you were taking breaks down, right? Like how do you take a break down the ocean, Nick?
So it's called a stage, we call it, but you got to imagine it's a metal underwater elevator, more or less. But it's just a little A-frame thing where two people could sit face to face like this and just kind of ride it out and just go, and you just stand on it. And as you come up, the people who control the winch, which actually is like the crane that moves this thing, they stop it right when you need to. And then they do the timing. Okay, this one's 5 minutes. And then they continue the ascent to the surface. And then they stop you where you need to. So that's another thing about the whole military diving world is you are literally putting your life in your brother's up on the top's hands, right? Like they got the valve there that could turn off the little control to the winch that's pulling you up and down. They literally, I mean, you have the ultimate trust to the guys that you work with all the time, right? So that's why we just call it the Brotherhood, because like literally they are your brothers, man.
Are you still in contact with some of these guys? Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. Yeah, just went to a retirement of another diver that retired down in Coronado, and I went to his retirement, and I mean I haven't seen this guy in probably 9-10 years, but it was like, you know, not a beat miss when we reunite with each other, because it literally is like family, you know, like you could not see family for a while and then boom, everything just flashes right back to, hey, how we used to be. So
how do you take a shit down the ocean, brother? How does it work?
You try not to.
Okay.
So
you're not eating before, right?
Well, I mean, so a lot of dives we do is like some of the longer dives that you'll end up doing in the diving world is when you're doing ship's repair. So you could be down there for like 6 hours, you know, just working. So, I mean, you try to hold it. Unfortunately, yes, people have had to just go underwater. And let's just say it's not pretty.
Of course.
I think astronauts probably have it a little prettier than underwater divers do, because it just goes. You know, I've seen people throw up underwater.
Throwing up underwater is even risky, no?
It's very risky.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, weird story is we used to do this thing where we'd have to swim away from an issue that was happening, and we all circle up top and wait for our ride to come back to get us, right? So there's like 13 of us in a big circle. One guy's up there getting seasick, you know, or he puked and now the food is floating around all of us. Next thing you know, man, there's these seagulls just swarming us going, lunch. And they just swoop down and start eating the puke that the dude had just thrown up out of his mouth. And I'm like, again, is this real life?
That's
world am I in right now?
That's insane. Before we jump in, sorry, I just so fascinating about your story. We definitely want to have a podcast about your crazy story.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's 3 hours in something. I don't know, but so last question before moving forward. So in the black box, what did they find? What was the reason of the crash? I don't remember the reason.
So the big reason was for very short terms, operator error. I mean, yeah. So in the big scheme of things, he wasn't quite up to par with instrument qualified flying, which is what you do at night, what you do when there's no horizon sight. And they believe that he tipped his wing per se a little bit too much for that plane to handle, and he wasn't aware of it, because I don't fly, but I could imagine that if you can't reference a point where you are, you don't even know that you're at an angle. And they think that he just kind of got a little bit too steep on one angle, and then it just curved over and just started spiraling down. And this plane is not like a jet plane where you can just kick on some boosters and just rip it and go, right? Sure. It just, once it's in that deal, it's going down. So I don't know the speed that they hit the water in, but I would guess it was about 100, maybe 120 miles an hour. And with that small plane, and we all know, we've heard, when you hit water at a certain speed, it's like hitting concrete. Like it just is, right? So it just busted up the plane, and no way anyone was going to survive that. I mean, it's just not at all, let alone all the stuff,
How many people were in it?
Three
people, yeah.
Yeah. Him, his wife, and then her sister. Crazy story.
The blonde one, no?
Both blondes, yeah.
Oh, blonde.
Both sisters were blonde. And crazy story is, like, come and find out, the family of the two daughters sued the Kennedys because like I said, he wasn't enough qualified to be flying that plane for the weather that pulled in. Like, if it would have been a beautiful, crystal clear day, I think everything would have been fine. But I believe what happened was a layer of fog or a layer of something, clouds or whatever, rolled in, and then he lost his horizon sight. So they sued that he wasn't even supposed to be flying that. And supposedly there's records of him telling, just get in the plane. We're flying. I'm good. And so all this came out later that, through the investigations, but it's a crazy story. Like, wow. The whole thing with the JFK Jr airplane crash and the family and the sisters and the wife. And I mean, the recovery portion of it, my involvement with it in that whole nature is, it's one of my go-to stories where people are like, well, yeah, what'd you do in the military? I'm like, all right, I'll throw this one out there. And they're like, wow, you did some cool stuff.
Wow.
That's just one. I got more when you're ready. Always gets, the most flow. So that's kind of fun.
Insane.
Yeah.
Are you still dreaming about some type of mission or things like that, or?
Not dreaming per se. Like, I think now that I've been retired for 4 years, I kind of throttle off of it. I'm able to, manifest or align with just other things now. So I feel I've come away from a lot of it, but sometimes when I do see my old buddies, my old divers that I've been out with, like, seeing them, like, kicks up, like, we used to do this, and, like, remember those days, or you start talking about it, and I'm like, man, I kind of let that go already. But then you reunite with someone, it's like, oh no, so it comes up. So it's a little bit of both, I bet.
Got it. So, and then you come up with all this crazy story, amazing missions, 25 years in the military, in the Navy, and then now you're doing hard money lander.
Yeah.
How the switch was, man? Like, that's insane.
I mean, super insane. Like, some people don't even believe it. I tell people what I do now, and they're like, oh, so what, you were like an accountant? Like, you went to college to be like an economics person? I'm like, no, dude. I was the furthest away from that ever, man. I was straight military, never went to college, until later on I was in. So for me, what really it was like the travel that you get while you're in the military, just the nonstop going around the world, traveling, deployments, just to go. I had to find something that would allow me to possibly keep doing that, right? And I mean, I could have worked at a bank, sat in an office, wore a suit and did all that, or I could have become an accountant or a CPA or whatever. But all those just seem like, to me, like, dude, you're just going right back into the seat and sitting there and working for somebody else or whatever. So luckily for me, I went to a real estate meeting, and that night, the little topic was hard money lending.
How many years ago?
This was almost 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yep. Sat there, listened to it, and everything he said, I was just like, dude, that makes sense to me. Like, and so after the meeting, I ran up to him. I was like, hey, dude, like, I love what you're talking about here. Like, this is what I want to do. I know he was trying to pitch more of, hey, if you want to borrow money from me to do a flip and, like, selling his product, he goes, at the very end, he kind of threw it out there very lightly. He goes, but if you want to invest your money into these projects with me, and that's where I was like, oh, I got money. I like to invest. I was very much into Wall Street back then, stock trading, and, I bought some real estate, and I knew about, ROI, and, he was throwing out some numbers of his ROI, and I was like, that sounds really good. So then I basically just sat in his back pocket for like 8 to 9 months. I was just like his little freaking gopher, dude. I was like doing all his draw inspections. I was doing his paperwork for him. I was putting my own money into deals with him so I could really track how deals work. And yeah, about 8 to 9 months after working with him, I was just like, dude, I think I got it. Like, I'm, just like in the military, they watch you do it. they train you how to do it, then they watch you do it, and then you go do it on your own. It's like very systematic of how we train the military. So same thing with him. He watched me do it, I did it on my own, and then finally I broke off and started my own thing. So January of 2020, I started Homeport Capital, and I named it Homeport Capital because I started it in my old home port of Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. And I just wanted it to be a community thing to where I lent money to revitalize my old town that raised me, from 18 to 42. This place was like where I'm from, almost, I could say. So I named my company Homeport just for that support. It's a big Navy town, I wanted to kind of have that still Navy vibe going, want to get back to my people out there. And then the crazy thing was, COVID happened, right? Mm-hmm. So some people were like, oh man, started a company right before COVID, March 2020, you hit this fan. And I'm just like, no, dude, it was actually a huge blessing for me. Two things happened. Credit lines started getting shut down because the banks were scared. Big banks were like, whoa, this is just, we don't know. So a lot of the guys who were flipping houses, their credit lines were just like, poof, gone. Well, they still had things to do. They still had projects. They were like, dude, we're used to working in dirty environments, COVID, some invisible disease. We're down here with mold and nasty, everything in these houses, and like, let's keep going. So I started getting just more phone calls because people needed money. Well, I wasn't a bank. I wasn't under no regulation of, hey, we're going to shut down for a while. So I just got more business, freaking like, come on out, man. I'll give you money. Like, let's go. We could do this together. Another thing happened too. No one wanted to meet face to face. Everyone's like, oh no, you can't talk. You can't do this. Like, it's all separation. So it allowed me to run my company from my computer, from my phone, from my house, from whatever. So I was able to really, really learn how to run shop like I'm currently doing now, living here in beautiful San Diego, California, while moving money on the East Coast. And I mean, via cell phone, via computer, wires, Zoom, FaceTimes, get draw inspections via pictures and videos and phone calls versus, all right, I'll come out to the site and walk it and do it. So, those two things really, really set me kind of up for how can I do this mobily? And really, that's the big takeaway is what I'm doing, I can do from anywhere. Like, I've been out surfing out in San Diego and got a phone call on my Apple Watch. It was like, yeah, what's up, man? Okay, cool. Yep, wire today. We're all good. We're closing. Sure, I'll get out and go to the bank. Like, what? Not many jobs you can do that to where you could be, but still be able to get stuff done while you're, you're enjoying your life.
So that's amazing, bro. So, quick question for the audience. Let's just say there is money do I need to start doing what Joshua does.
Okay. Yeah, this is the fun part. All right, so to be an efficient private lender, you don't need a lot of money, right? One of the tactics that I use is self-directed IRA money to invest into deals. I think, as we know, some of the limiting factors of IRAs is like individual IRA.
Yeah,
is the max you could do is I think this year 7,000.
Yeah.
So imagine if you're like, all right, I want to open up a self-directed and fund the full amount for the year at 7,000. That's really not a lot of money, right? Like, most people are like, there's no way I could just do a deal with 7,000. Like, come on. But there is, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Because there's different types of private lending. Mm-hmm. There's not only private lending of like, oh, you're going to buy $1 million home. Here, I'll fund you $1 million. Like, that's eventually maybe you can get there. But it's way before that, too. Luckily, and I'll give a shout out to Pace Morby, he started a whole group, a whole new industry of gap lending. So this is where borrowers use a primary hard money lender or even a line of credit or whatever to fund 80% of the $1 million deal. Well, they don't want to even come up with the $200K to do the deal. So they go, hey, gap lenders, can you that? My other bank will cover the 80%. And so then therefore the real deal is only $200K for the gap lending, right? Now that's a big deal. That's kind of a numbers here in California. But if you go to the East Coast,
Sure.
they're buying houses out there for $100,000. My kitchen remodel was $100,000. Like, but out there, they're buying a full-blown house for $100K. And then they're putting, $40 to $50K. So if you run the numbers on that one, their gap lending needs are probably like $2,000 to $7,000. That's it. So you can be a private lender with as little as $2,000 to $7,000. And that gets your feet wet. That gets you at least seeing the logistics of how it works to safely deploy money collateralized by actual real estate, and then watch the project get completed, get sold, and then you get paid back via title. Like, the borrower doesn't get to go, oh, here's your money back, bro. Like, title actually sends you your funds back. So that's the beautiful thing about it, right?
So for people that have no idea what a title is, what is a title?
Okay, so a title is just like Bank of America, Wells Fargo. They all are on first position title of the home that you have a mortgage on.
Yes.
And that's the safest bet ever, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they got the biggest buildings out in here in San Diego. That's why they are the backbone of America. And they're the bank. And how do they safely invest into real estate? Via title. They want to be in first position on title. So it could either be a deed or a mortgage, but they play it safe. And so that's all I do. I just mimic what the banks do. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Banks have been around for a very long time. So as long as you do what they do, maybe with a little less risk per se, and I say that because most banks will allow 80% of the value of the home. I only allow 65% of the value of the home. So there's even another big, huge buffer, safety net, I call it, to where I'm saving room for the what ifs of if this person doesn't perform right.
So in other words, you're pretty much backing up the risk of lending money by being first position.
Yes.
Title.
Yeah. Only first position.
You got it.
Especially when you're first starting out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's now, like I was saying about the whole gap world, there's now lenders that are lending on third position because it pays a lot more.
Pays a little more.
First position, you're probably looking at maybe 10, 12, 15% return. First position, nice, safe. And then you start getting to the second position, which is like 30%. And then you get in the third position, which is, I've never even dabbled in that world. That's probably like stock traders, penny stocks and weird stuff like that. Like, it's just too risk, I've never done it, not even with my own money. Like, my own money, I'll have a little bit more risk. If I ever get other people's money in with me, I'm like, dude, first position only. I can't risk anybody else's money in stuff like that.
So you primarily invest in the East Coast?
Primary, yeah. 90% of my loans right now are all East Coast.
And then you're saying, so you may need just as little as $7,000.
Absolutely. To get started? Absolutely, yeah.
Got it.
And the beautiful thing is, once you get started with a small amount of money and you kind of see the system and you kind of see, okay, this is kind of just, rinse and repeat. Then kind of you start talking about it. You start seeing other people who, there's going to be a lot of baby boomers right now retiring. And they're going to have a lot of money in what they got told, put it into annuities, put it into bonds, put it into life insurance policy. Oh my God, you have $1 million of equity in your home. Just let it sit there. No. Those people can be utilized to help you fund more private lending deals. So therefore, you learn the system with your little $2,000 or $7,000. You've learned because you're in and out of deals quickly, learn it. And then you can start branching out to other people like, hey, you have $1 million sitting around and whatever. How about we work together and now you have money to deploy somebody else's. So then they're partnering with you in on these deals. So that's why I say you can get into this with a small amount of seed money, if you want to call it, learn the system, and then just start hitting them up, hit up your friends, your families, your neighbors who are, could be partners.
That's great. So how do people find people like you that they want to lend money to? How do people find those type of deals?
Okay. So, I mean, we met at a real estate meeting, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's real estate meetings in every town probably out there, right? I think when I was getting ready to get out of the military and I was like, what am I going to do? I'd already bought a bunch of houses while I was in. I was just mindset of real estate. Googled it. Literally went on Google and said, how to become a real estate investor. Number one thing, go to all the meetings you can that involve other real estate members. So there you go, right? Go to real estate meetings, start, I think I always throw a name tag on my chest when I go to these and I write investor or private money. Look for that guy that has that name badge on and be like, hey, you're private money? How long have you been doing it? What's your track history? Just kind of dig into that world and then just back pocket him. And that's what I did, right? I just sat in someone's back pocket and learned. So that's probably going to be your best way to do it. Sure, there's YouTube videos out there. Sure, there's books and sure there's whatever, but just stick with someone that's done it before, learn his system. And then when you're ready, break off and make your own system. Well, I do not recommend just saying, first person that needs money, just say, here, I'm a private money lender. Here you go.
Yeah.
Like, just don't do it.
Even though they can put you in first position.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to borrow money out there that just aren't, not that they're bad, but maybe they're just not as efficient as people who have been tried and true to tested and have, a flipper who is a mom and pop flipper. They watched HGTV a couple times. They're like, I could do that. I could hold down my 40-hour week job and I'll just paint on the weekends. I'll just, hire people to fix his house. Like, those people aren't quite as efficient as someone who's doing, 5 to 10 flips a quarter.
Sure.
So I believe if you get with an actual active private money lender already and kind of like live in his world for a while, you're going to be way more effective sooner and learn from his mistakes and not have to make them on yourself.
Mm-hmm. So you were mentioning that you started this in 2020. You didn't have any type of face-to-face type of contact really, right? At that time. So the deal that you were entering in, you knew and trust the people you were in, or was like more, hey, I met this guy 1 month ago. He seems like a good guy. He can put me for position. I'll give you the money. How do people identify a really good, efficient person to do business with?
Yeah. So luckily for me, the first deal that I ever put my money into, it was prior to COVID. And I think even if it wasn't, this guy would have been like, I don't care. Let's go. Hop in the truck. So luckily for me, when I got presented a deal of, hey, are you ready to go? You have money, you said, are you ready to put it down into play? Are you ready to just jump in the water and start learning how to swim? I was like, yeah, sure. He goes, all right, well, do you want to meet the guy that's going to be, utilizing your money here and there? I'm like, I should, right? He's like, yeah, you better. Like, I'm not really asking you, but yes, so go meet him. So yeah, he said, all right, man, he's here working on this house currently that he's in. Go out there, meet him, whatever. So walked into the house, dude's been flipping houses for 40 plus years. He's got kids older than me. And I'm like, Eric? He's like, yeah, coveralls on, dirty, in there still doing the work with all the other guys and stuff. He's like, you Josh? I'm like, yeah. And so he goes, all right, man, hey, I'm going to take a break. So he throws me in his truck, and he takes me over to 3 other houses that he's doing. One was just getting demoed. One was about getting staged, almost to sell. And then he took me to an auction house of the people who get him houses via auction. So I got to meet his people who are getting him houses. And he just took me around and just showed me. And I was just like, dude, this guy has it. Like, he's got a system down. He's been doing it forever. He's still in there in the trenches doing the work with the guys. And I was like, I believe in this guy. It's a crazy story. Fast forward, I'm still lending him money today on my own, away from the guy who introduced me to him. Absolutely. Great guy. Every time I go back out to Virginia, I hit him up and I go see what he's currently doing and stuff like that. So
great value, man. So what's the ROI on it? So you mentioned about 10% to 15% on a first position, and then you're getting riskier and then you're getting more reward. But like, let's just say someone is looking, say, okay, Joshua, how long will it take me to get my 10% to 15% back for my money lending to you? Okay,
yeah. So I kind of call it just like basic straight stick lending on, say, a single family home, flip, pretty big rehab job. We try to do 6 months, right? We want people that are going to be in there working 5 days a week, not mom and pop, weeknights and weekdays. Like, we want crews there, that Class A contractors, blah, blah. That's who we want to lend to. So usually I would say the whole construction of things, 2 to 3 months, right? You should be able to get a full house that's, again, it's not a California house. It's not 8 bedrooms or nothing. It's a 2-3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, maybe 2 bathroom home, 1,200 square feet, 1,600 square feet, whatever. You want people to be able to get that done construction-wise, rehab-wise, ready to sell in 2 to 3 months. Like, that's very normal. Then you got to think, okay, well, then how many days is going to be on market to sell? So lately it's been getting more. For a while there, it was like 2 days, boom, full offer, good to go. Now it's probably averaging 15 to 30 days, right? And then when someone says, okay, I'll buy it, what do you got? You got 30-day escrow. So I would say bread and butter, everything goes well, perfect. You should be able to deploy money into a deal. And by the 6th month later,
maximum.
That's the belief, right? Like, we just closed on one this weekend that it went 2 months over the 6 months.
Okay.
So 8 months. So I would say best case scenario, within 6 months, you should be able to see that house sold and get your money back. Kind of worst case scenarios is maybe a month or 2 extensions. So then you're looking at 8 months.
Okay. And then is there any penalty for you? Let's just say you I'm assuming there is a contract say, hey, within 6 months you're gonna get your money back. Let's just say that you go over the 6 months and it gets you 8 months. Is there any penalty in the contract? Like, no. How does that work?
So that works however you want to write it up. Sure. Like, as a private money lender, you can add penalties. You could say, hey, no payments due until that 6th month. And then on the 7th month, you have to start making payments. You could do a huge penalty. You could do a small one. You get to choose your kind of the size of your hammer that comes down if they go past the duration of time. It's all by your choice.
What do you recommend?
I recommend, for me, what I do is I say, hey, no payments for the first 6 months. Just focus on getting the job done. You got plenty to do, chasing the contractors around, lining them up, picking out piles and carpet and color schemes, design, blah, blah. So don't worry about the payments that you would have to say, oh, here's the first month, got to pay Josh. Don't worry about that. After the 6th month, I highly recommend then you at least write something that you will start making payments now, right? Like, it's a little reminder, like, hey, dude, you're over. So now you have to make a payment on this deal. I would recommend that. That's probably one of my big recommendations. Give them a little poke in the side with payments due past the duration date. Yep.
So you mentioned, put a little penalty within the contract. Now, how much money would you ask if they go one day after that and be like, hey, you're late?
Okay, so you could do it either way. One way. You could do a flat 1 month late fee. So 1 day over and it's boom, let's just say 1% of the whole loan late fee, or you choose what you
recommend.
I like to do a 3% just late fee. So like if you go day 1 of 6 months, they'll do a late fee. Every credit card company does it. Bounce checks do it.
Day 1 of 6 months.
Day 1 of 6 months, late fee. Boom. And you write it in there. It's either 2% or 3% or whatever you feel is justified by it. Late fee. Mm-hmm. So there you go. You automatically know, like, dude, you hit default mode, late fees due, and again, you could write it in there that if you're under a contract, okay, we'll waive it. If you have it listed in stage, we'll waive it. Like, you get to do a lot of choices, what you feel as your personal little PML wants to do. Mm-hmm. It's your choice. So, that's another reason why you want to work with someone, because, like, what did they do? Did it work well? Were the fees fair? If they're not, if you're like, dude, everybody just cries and whines and complains about this fee process, then maybe when you break off on your own, you go, yeah, maybe I won't do it that way. Maybe I'll be a little bit more lenient. Maybe it's a 15-day grace period or whatever. But yeah, you really get to choose on what you believe in is going to work for your investors.
Then a quick hack that just popped to my mind. Let's just say someone is watching this podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, dude, I have no money to lend, but I do have a really good high credit limits in my credit card. Mm-hmm. What people can do eventually is borrow the money from the credit card, do a balance transfer, and then taking the money, wire it to you or whatever it is, and then getting the money working for you. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if you're able to get a 0% interest rate from some credit card like Safari or whatever it is, Chase, they do a really good deal. Yep. They can take this money, give it to you or whatever it is, and then having the money working for them, boom, cash up.
Brother, now you are speaking my language. I was
You know what I mean?
No, I mean, one of the big questions I get is like, where do I get this money from? My job is never going to allow me to have $50,000 saved up until I'm probably 40 years old. Yes, credit card hack right now is a huge win for your average day folk that's like, dude, I could get it. And it really comes back to, I remember when I was 16 years old, my mom and dad are like, dude, we're going to put you on our credit card as an authorized user. So you can start learning how to properly use a credit card from 16 to 18, so that when you turn 18, your credit score is going to be amazing, because as an authorized user, their history, their credit limit makes your score just phenomenal. So the day one on 18, you apply for a credit card, you're approved. And then make sure you play those cards right, you do the right thing by them, so that eventually, what you're talking about, you can apply for credit cards and get $30,000 to $40,000 worth of credit balance limits on them. And then you can, once you start doing that, you start getting mail after mail saying, hey, we'll offer you this 18 months, 0% credit. And yeah, if you could push it into a deal for 18 months over time and make 15 to maybe even 20% return on that money, game changer, starting off with OPM, other people's money.
Does that affect the credit score?
Yeah.
Having like, let's just say a balance of $50,000 in the credit card from like 6 months or whatever it is, does it affect the credit score in a bad way?
Yes.
Okay.
So it will definitely affect your personal credit score.
Okay.
And now there's people out there, obviously, that are like, oh, business credit cards, this is the way to go. Because the difference of personal and business is you could have $100,000 of credit usage on a business card, and it doesn't make your personal score go down. So that's why a lot of people are starting to venture over to that route, is get business credit card 0%. Personal, yes, absolutely. When you utilize your balance transfer 0%, tactic, your personal credit score was going to drop like a freaking tank. So you just have to time it right. Am I going to buy a car in the next 6 months or 12 months? No. Am I going to buy a house in the next 6 months or 12 months via loans or credit? If you don't need your credit score to be up because you're not buying anything, then what does it really matter if your credit score takes a tank for that duration of time? It really doesn't. Sure. Now, when you're going to start buying something where you have to turn in, your credit score, yeah, you better close those out, pay them off, wait 30 days for all that to erase from your current credit score. It goes right back to normal like that. I mean, it really does. It's that fickle. It just goes right back up. And then you can go out and, buy your car, buy your house, buy your whatever you're going to do. And as soon as you're done doing all that, boom, hit it again.
What would it be the best way for someone to take $50,000 and invest it? How should they invest it? Should they invest it in a hard money lender? Should they invest it in the East Coast, purchase a home, down payment? What would it be the best way? Actually, what would you do if you talk to your young self and say, hey, my man, you got $50,000, 100,000, 200, whatever it is. You got some money? Okay, do use this money this way.
Yeah.
What would it be?
So just always, like we always say, I'm not a financial advisor.
Yes.
So I could probably say basically what I've done, and that'd be the easier answer. But for me, because when I got into space, I had already owned real estate. I already had rental properties. I've already done like the syndication thing, giving money to, multifamily, stuff like that. So I've kind of already played those roles for me. So, $50,000, what I would first say is, if you can, especially like maybe as a military member, use some of that, go ahead and get your first primary house. Like, do it, because I do believe that if you could take some of that 50K and use the smallest amount of it, especially VA, and buy your first house, the amount of knowledge you'll get with buying your first home and dealing with hot water heaters, roofs, wind, all the maintenance that a house takes, it's going to help you later on when you're, maybe loaning to people who are trying to buy houses and blah, blah. Another thing is, when you have a house that's got, more than 2-3 bedrooms, you can start rent out each room. So now you got a house, you're learning the maintenance thing, then you're learning how to be a landlord all under your roof. So now you know how to do leases, you know how to collect rents, you know how to if you had to evict somebody, you know, you're going to learn how to be a landlord. And so that's how I would start. That's how I did start, with money that I'd saved up first. Once you're in there and you're able to collect money via rent, blah, blah, then you still have, let's just say, a bunch of the $50K left over. Yes, I would try to find something that would give you the highest ROI for the shortest amount of time, because you want to compound this thing, right? We all know the beauty of compound interest is get this thing going and compound. And that's kind of what these quick loans do.
Yeah.
4 months in, boom, you get it back, put it into another one with the interest. You're just going to compound it so much quicker and easier. So that's what I would do. Now, again, I would just ask anybody that's got this question is, or how much time do you have? If you're like, some people are like, dude, I got a full-time job. I love it. I don't have time to do all this stuff. I just want to set it and forget it. Well, then, yeah, go for the 50K into it and let it rip, you know, let it grow 3X maybe in a year or two. All good, you know, get the little distribution. So cliche, but case-by-case basis of how much time you want to have or how much effort you want to put into it really kind of deviates from that answer.
Got it. So to break it down, if you are in the military, use a DA loan, get your first fucking home, and then start being a landlord, start learning from all the mistakes that can happen with that. If you are not in the DA and you have like, you don't have too much money, but you have a high credit limit on your credit card, leverage that credit card. Of course, we're not financial advisor, but that's breaking down, right? Leverage that credit card, max it, and then get into hard money lender, getting like a 15% return on investment, cash it out 6 months later, and then redo the things all over and over.
Yeah.
Also making sure they are not doing any type of, car loan or things like that. So you're not having an effect on your credit score. And then what would be the last option in the breakdown? I just say if someone is like, I don't know, has like a few $1,000s in the bank, high credit score, and high credit limits.
Okay.
What would you do? Let's just say, let's put a number.
6,000. Let's just, yeah.
Let's just say they have like $40,000 in their bank account.
Okay.
High credit score, high credit limits. What should they do?
So there's a strategy that I kind of learned later in my life is self-directed IRAs. So you can open, in my opinion, the Roth IRA is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So you can open a Roth self-directed IRA for the year. I think we said earlier, it's $7,000 currently. I would take some of that $40,000 and start a self-directed IRA with your 7K. And then you could start using that money to really deploy in and out of deals. And it's completely tax-free. Like you could 10X this thing and 0 capital gains. If you did it on the 31st day of December, the 2 days later, you could put another $7,000 into the same self-directed, and now you have $14,000.
Huge.
So I would utilize this 40K we're talking about here and start stashing it into those at least. There's a whole another world called the solo 401k.
Yes.
Which is, I believe at this point, you could put like $70K a year into your solo 401k via company contributions, via match, blah, blah, blah. But there's another, if you took some of this 40K and started your solo 401k with, of course, you have to have business and LLC and blah, blah, but it's just a way to get even more of this money into an account that you can just steamroll up to the moon and grow and grow and grow, and it's all tax-free.
Solo 401k is tax-free.
Yeah, the growth and when you pull it out, if it's within the Roth boat. Yeah. Yep.
That's all huge, man. We're definitely going to have another podcast talking about your adventure and the JFK situation, man. I want to know more about it, for sure. And a little bit more about your Navy crazy story.
Yeah.
Definitely want to be on whatever it takes, 3 hours, whatever it takes. It was a pleasure having you today, my man. I learned so much.
Very cool.
And my audience, for sure, they learned so much from you again. I'm definitely going to have you one more time.